Thank you. Thank you again. I want to thank you for tuning in to my very first podcast. Now, if you're new to this channel and you want to improve your tournament poker play, then you're going to love this podcast series. I guarantee you that. You see, each week I'm going to be interviewing a local tournament hero, a super champion of the game. But I'm going to do things a little differently. It's going to be a podcast show that you've never heard before. I can guarantee you that as well. I'm going to be breaking some new grounds in the poker world, just like I did with my website, Stake My Game, where I've been able to merge social media and tournament poker for the very first time in history. I'm not kidding. My first special guest just came off cashing one of the largest tournaments in Southern California just about a month ago. And just yesterday, he cashed in a smaller stakes tournament here in Southern California at a local Indian casino here. And he's a true icon. He's a local favorite in the local circuit, and I've played against him many times at the same table. He's a tough bastard, but he's actually one of the nicest guys in the world, and he's going to be sharing some of his strategies and thoughts during his play so that you can pick up some information and knowledge and techniques from a guy that cashes in more tournaments than I've ever played. His name is Terry. We call him Terry the Dragon Barnett. And if you ever want to stake his game or some of his action, or if you just want to get your feet wet investing in a poker player, then he's offering a free $5 stake in his action. So not only are you going to be able to be part of his game, and you're going to be able to share in part of his payout, but you're also going to be following him on social media during the live tournament, which is kind of cool. You're going to be able to text him, ask him questions like, how he's doing, how many chips does he have, how many blinds are left, or, what are the blinds. And during the breaks, usually he does a quick Instagram and live stream for all of his backers. And you can find that on Stake My Game's website as well. So you can ask him things like, what's he doing to get to the cash? And this is absolutely free. So now in just about a minute, we're going to go ahead and put him on the air with me. And he's going to go through some strategies and techniques and different types of hands he likes to play and different things that worked out well for him in the tournament. So you're going to want to listen to this. So you're going to learn a lot. So if you're looking for some good information or just looking to improve your poker game, or if you're just trying to cash your first tournament, then stick around. We're going to put Terry on right now and listen to what he has to say. So check this out. So you went to Pachanga. You entered the 10,000, and tell me your thoughts at that point. I mean, were you feeling good?
So yes, yesterday I went to Pachanga. I did their $110 10K guarantee. Feeling pretty good. Got a good positive attitude about it. I am feeling fairly well that they are probably not going to have as large of a crowd as they've had during the course of the holidays.
Right.
But actually, I was right and I was wrong. They didn't have as many people, but they still had a pretty big turnout.
How many?
It ended up being like 160, like 163.
Wow.
So,
that's pretty big for that small stake, what I would consider a small stakes tournament. That's a lot of people trying to go after that 10,000 or a piece of it.
Absolutely. So, well, as far as actual number of entrants, probably closer to about maybe 140. I saw a lot of people do rebuys.
Yeah.
And I know one young gentleman. I know you know him. He was good for 4.
Yeah. So if he barely cashes, he might break even.
Dude, he's got. Well, they were paying 2 tables. He's got to make it to at least 10th place to be able to get his money back.
Oh, no kidding.
Oh yeah. So all the pay is on the top end. So the tournament itself, not the most ideal structure. But my strategy was to be patient, try not to push the action, find spots where I can get in, and basically try and take advantage of other people's mistakes. From the giddy-up, my table, there was a decent amount of action. So I'm able to get a few chips. I kind of got knocked down to about 6,200. Starting stack was 8,000. Took about an hour. We got up over starting stack count, and then slowly started just chipping up. I am trying to take advantage of spots whenever and wherever I can. Finally, I was able to kind of get a runaway breakthrough at one point when I had picked up aces against an opponent that plays occasionally. He had called my raise, with a king-queen. And when the king came, he figured he was good.
So you raised enough to where you wanted at least one caller with your aces, right?
Yes.
So what level was this? Was it about level 4, maybe 5? Was it after registration?
Actually, it was 5. The blinds were 4, 800, and 800.
Okay, so there was already a couple thousand chips in the pot, and you raised it. And you raised it 4,000 with your aces?
I actually made it 5.
5,000.
I wanted to make it definitely a little high on the higher side. However, the gentleman that was in the big blind was in T1 actually had a pretty decent chip stack. So
this is the guy. This is the guy that called you.
This is the guy that had called me. He hit his king, but that's the problem with playing hands like king, queen, and king jack. If you do hit one of your cards, you're not sure 100% if your kicker is good.
And you're hoping a king comes out because you probably put them on 2 face cards or something, or maybe a pocket jacks or pocket tens or something.
Yeah, exactly. So I've pretty much nailed him down on his range. King queen was within the range that I had thought that he might have. I got to give him this. He made up his mind that he's going to play his hand, and he's going to play his hand hard. When the flop came out, he came out swinging for a bet of 10,000,
which was basically your chip stack.
Pretty much my chip stack. If I would have called the 10, I would only have like 3,500 behind. I don't put this guy on a pair of kings, so I go ahead and I move all in the rest of my chips.
So was he
the call?
Was he the first to act? Was he on your left?
He was actually 3 to my right. He was in seat 1. I'm in seat 4, but he was the big blind. So after the flop, yes, he was the first to act.
Okay, so he was the first to act, and he was the big blind. So you were on his left.
I was on his left. Yes.
Okay, so he bet out primarily your chip stack. So you weren't going anywhere with the rockets. So you just went ahead and shoved.
Yeah, exactly. So even if I'd had ace king, I'm still not going to go anywhere. So, which is kind of strange. I'm not sure exactly what my opponent was thinking that I might have had, but this is where it was good that the gentleman didn't know me.
Yeah, I think he might have figured it out when you called his he had to have put you on a big king like ace king or maybe even. Yeah. That's what I would do. I mean, if I had a chip stack and I was putting this guy all in, and he calls my all in, or he calls, a big bet that puts me all in, then I'm thinking, oh shit, I'm behind king queen.
Well, I think the verbal tell that he said was whoops.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. If I was in his position, then depending on what I had put the other person on, because he had a healthy chip stack, I may have done the same thing. Put a lot of pressure on the other person for their tournament life, but I had the benefit of knowing what cards I had. So, like I said, this particular guy didn't know I weighed so much. Maybe thought I had a pair of jacks, because a lot of people tend to want to shove all in pre-flop with jacks.
Yeah. All right. So you're at level 5. You just doubled up with your aces, and then you play the patience card for another hour or so. How long was the tournament?
Let's see here.
It started at what, 10?
It started at 10, and I think I talked to you when I called you, I'd probably been out of the tournament for about maybe 5 minutes.
All right. What, 3 o'clock?
Yeah, it was about 3 o'clock. Might even been a little bit earlier than that.
Okay.
So
you were into the tournament when you doubled up at approximately 2 to 3 hours, and then the field starts to narrow. You're basically just hanging in there, and you're probably card dead for another hour. But what happened after that? How did you get to the cash?
Actually, another pair of aces and the same gentleman, and it was approximately another hour later on.
And so you're wondering if he learned his lesson the first time. Now, what did he have the second time you had aces? What happened there? Tell me.
Ironically, he had the same hand. He had a king-queen. I guess he just decided that he was going to ride or die. This time he hit his queen and made the same mistake of thinking that he was good. Once again, he didn't really pay attention to the pre-flop raise. I'm trying to remember exactly what the blinds were. I think they were 1,500, 5, and 1,500.
Oh, so I had up there. Yeah,
it's getting up there. Yeah. So, and by that point, a number of people had dropped out of the tournament. He was in the small blind this time, which really puts me in an early position, and I make it 9,000. He decides he's going to go ahead and he's going to push.
And this was after the flop.
No, this was pre-flop.
Oh, okay. All right. So
yeah.
All right. So what did he do? He just limped in and just tried to see a cheap flop, or did you raise?
He pushed. I had raised. I'd made it 9,000. He was in the small blind. He goes ahead and he shoves. And at this point, now I think I have him covered by a couple thousand.
Oh wow! So it was a big pot.
It was a big pot. And he even said, he's like, man, yeah, he was concerned about me possibly being the guy that took him out, and in the end, he was right. And it was funny because when he looked at his hand pre-flop, he had that look about him when you walk up to the street corner and look both ways before you cross the street.
Right.
So, and he decided he was going to go ahead and cross the street anyway. So, yeah, that was a beautiful spot for me. That actually set me up to where I could be patient, choose my spots, and be able to slip into the money without there being, any real difficulties. I'm not too worried if I lose a couple orbits on my blinds. I'm going to be okay.
Right. So now you're up 30,000 in chips. The blinds are now probably a couple thousand.
Yes.
So and your strategy at this point is to just wait for your cards. Start getting some cards and then start playing again a little bit tighter. Or are you still looking to having other people make mistakes?
I am still looking to capitalize on other people's mistakes. Now, at this point, when we get down to a little less than 4 tables, they're paying 20 spots. So I know people are thinking about the money. The ones who seem like they're concerned about trying to get into the money, these are the people that I'm actually leaning on the hardest. I'm coming out with decent-sized raises. I'm able to pick up some blinds. I am losing some chips when I am trying to see a flop with a couple of speculative hands.
And give me an example of that.
Jack 10 of diamonds.
Okay. Yeah.
One person had limped in. I limped in. I don't get to see a flop because somebody moves all in for $12,000. I'm not going to call for the $12,000.
Yeah. Jack 10 of diamonds is a wonderful hand to see a cheap flop with because you could hit that so many different ways.
Oh, absolutely. So, I am avoiding bad aces. Pretty much just trying to stick to the premium hands, with the exception of being in a late position. If I have not had somebody raise in front of me.
Right.
And I'm actually being careful as to who may have possibly called in front of me, because I know that some of these particular players, what they will do, they will limp in with ace-king, aces, kings, queens, even jacks, and wait for somebody else to go ahead and raise. Fortunately, I know Pachanga enough to know that, I know who those players are. So, and as a matter of fact, what ended up propelling me to almost 60,000 in chips was when I had called with a king, queen of spades, when one of these other people had limped in. Now, my range for this particular person is just about the top 10 possible hands of poker.
What did he end up? So he called your raise. What ended up happening?
Well, no, actually, what I didn't do, he had limped in. I decided I'm going to go ahead and limp in. I want to see a flop for cheap. I didn't want to reopen the betting because I don't want this guy going all in. He's got almost 12,000 in chips. Because of the blinds, I am concerned. I know he's going to go all in at the drop of a hat.
Yeah, if he hits one of his cards, he's shoving.
He hits one of his cards, he's going to be shoving. Simple as that. So I just go ahead and limp in. The small blind folds, the big blind checks, and the flop brings 2 queens and a 9. So I'm feeling pretty comfortable about my hand.
Unless he has the Jack 10, then you're like, oh shit.
Unless he's got the Jack 10. But this is almost a picture-perfect moment where the dude had misplayed his hand.
Right, but you had a king. You had your king, so you had one of the blockers for the straight. So the likelihood.
I got one of the blockers for the straight.
Yeah, so you were feeling
mathematically,
good with that flop.
Yeah, mathematically, he should not have queens, and he should not have kings. So what he actually did have was aces.
Oh, he had pocket aces.
And he had pocket aces. He jammed it. He was first to act. He went ahead and he moved all in, and I snap call. So,
of course, yeah.
Boom. And he knew. He knew at that point. He got caught with his pants down, and that was it. So that had to tell me up to...
Was this the same guy that you beat with your aces?
No. It was... when I got my second pair of aces, the gentleman that I'd beaten both times with a king-queen, I knocked him out the second hand.
Oh, okay.
The second time.
All right. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting that your battles for this one, as limited as they are, had to do with king, queen, and aces.
Absolutely. Oh, trust me, the irony of that was not lost on me.
Yeah. What's ironic is the fact that you won. You played them right, and that's key. And that's all part of being a great tournament champion is to know how to get in cheap, see a cheap flop, and then if you hit it, you go deep. But that, it was perfect strategy on your part. So now what happens? You're down to what, 2 tables?
We're actually down to about 2.5 tables. I managed to pick up the blinds, I think maybe twice over the course of the next 45 minutes. What I didn't really know was that at that point, now I am pretty much going to go card dead. We get down to the tables, we get in the money, they reshuffle for spots, and the table that I end up on ends up being the table with the majority of the chips. And I'm now with...
You got to start getting creative with your strategy now.
Now at this point, well, honestly, to tell you the truth, my whole thing was, once I get into the money, I am actually going to be a lot less concerned about playing the way I did to get to this point. I am now going to shuffle off that particular strategy, and the reason why is this. I'm sitting on, at my best point, I think I might have had maybe 70,000 in chips. Because of the blinds and everything else, I'm constantly moving between a good 45,000 and 60,000 in chips.
Yeah, but the blinds now, Terry, is what, about 5,000 at least, right?
Yeah. The blinds have gotten up to 5,000, and I've got 3 people at my table that are sitting on over 150,000 in chips.
And every time
so,
a button comes toward you, you know that you're going to put out about 10% of your chip stack just to play.
Actually, for me, well, yeah, for one of them, yes. For me, I'm actually giving out more because if I'm paying the big blind and the ante, I'm giving out 10,000, and if I'm only sitting on 60,000, that's almost 17% of my stack right there.
All right, so tell me
now,
everybody wants to know, where's your mind at? What are you thinking at this point? Are you saying I've got one shot to go all in and double up, or are you going to play it safe and play tight? I mean, where's your mind at right now?
Okay. What I'm looking at is the double up. Now, with the exception of being in the small blind and possibly calling the big blind, which I was able to do twice. Now, on one of those times, the best hand that I had seen was an ace-10 of diamonds. I've got a very good, talented player, and I know you know this guy. He's the one with the green sweatshirt. And I've got this extreme wild card who will play any hand. I make the call on the small blind. I have an ace-10 of diamonds. I'm feeling like I have a reasonable chance at this board.
I mean, if I was in your position with that amount of chips, with the blinds being the way they are, and the fact that you were card dead for the last hour, you're looking down at ace-10. You know, I'm thinking at this point, if I was in position, that's important. I would shove.
Yeah.
I mean, what was your thought process?
Well, actually, that was the main consideration, and the reason why I only just made the call is because my buddy in the green sweater was the big blind, and I got wild card and C10, who dudes have been playing any two hands. He's been betting any draw that he has, and more importantly, the guy's been hitting. So he's already made the call. NC1 for the 5,000. If I shove all in with 60, he's still going to call me because he's sitting on almost 200,000 in chips.
Okay, so basically, no matter what happens, you don't have enough chips to bother him. So he's looking at you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you really don't have any choices here. I mean, you gotta play that ace-10 only one way. So tell me what happened. Everyone's on pins and needles.
So what I basically end up doing is I just go ahead and I decide that I'm going to make the call. Because I know if I end up hitting my hand, I already know C10 is going to double me up. It doesn't matter what comes out. He's been calling down with everything, but he's been getting lucky. And the flop was like an 8-7-5, 2 clubs.
It was a blank.
It was a blank, but I know for sheet 1, that's his street address. And sure enough, it gets checked to him. He makes a bet. Yeah, I'm me in the small blind. I fold, big blind fold, and big stack takes down another pot. A few hands later, I end up going up against a younger guy who was in the big blind. So, younger guy in seat 2 ends up shoving all in. I look down. I'm in the small blind, and I have an ace-king. Not that it makes much difference, but it's suited and they're spades. I'm thinking about the range of hands that this kid has, and we are pretty much evenly stacked.
All right.
We got down to 2 tables.
If it were me, here's the way I'm thinking. If he's seat 2 and he shoves, you know he's got a pair, right?
Well, actually, no. I put him on an ace.
Really, just any kind of ace rag, just basically that being it was what it is.
He could have had any kind of ace. It is quite possible he could have had a pair. I did put him on a range, anywhere from a small pair all the way up to maybe 9s.
Well, the reason why I'm thinking in my head a pair, because I've got the big pair blockers. I got the high almighty. I got the ace king. and I'm on his right, obviously. So, you know, I would have to put him on, like what you said, maybe a mid pocket or something like that, because, you know, his range is going to be, you know, you've got the blockers for the big pairs, and even an ace rag. I mean, you've got one of the aces, so it's unlikely, you know, based on the fact that there's only 4 aces in the deck, so it's unlikely he's got an ace rag. So, I mean, but regardless, I mean, you're not going anywhere, right? So what happened?
I go ahead and I move all in. The kid had ace-10.
Oh, he did have a weak ace.
And he did have a weak ace. Well, here's the thing that really kind of led me to conclude that he had a weak ace, is that he's desperate. Myself, and one other person are the short stacks at the table. I mean, between the two tables, the two final tables, on this table, there's a ridiculous amount of chips. At that point, I think now there are 4 people over 100,000 in chips. At this point, this is my Braveheart moment of the tournament. I'm going to pick a fight. This is the best hand I've seen at this table, except that it goes runner, deuce 3 to put the wheel out for both of us, and we end up chopping the pot.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. And now, at this point, I will probably not progress much further in this tournament. I made the cash.
Unless you skin a goat or something.
Exactly. So, now, at this point, if ace-king is not going to be working out for me, sometimes, honestly, you know, in a tournament, it's your time to go. So,
right.
At this point, I decide...
How many people are left in the tournament at this point?
There were 17 people that were still left in the tournament. 188 was the first level of the payout. The next level payout is going to be 233. I figure if I do make it to the next level of the payout, you know, that's fine and dandy. And at this point, now I am looking for any hand to be able to go to war with, all the way down to a Jack 10.
Okay, so so what you're looking at, if you're in position, okay, we're going to assume you're in position, and you look down at whether it's suited or not, you're looking down at Jack 10, you're ready to move all in, right?
I am ready to move all in. I'm ready to do battle. I am hoping that I'll be able to get that double up.
Yeah, because if you wait any longer, you're going to get blinded out to a point where no matter what you do, you're going to get 5 callers.
Yeah, so... And that's the thing, is that now that the blinds are going up 3,000, 6,000, I don't even have 10 big blinds. Because remember, the big blind is having to pay for the ante. That's another 6.
Yeah, you're decimating your chip stack. So you really your range is wide open now. So it could include anything. It could include anything that with a suited face card to pocket pair, of any pocket pair, really.
Yeah, exactly. So the irony of this situation is that it's now the kid's big blind. I look down. I got an ace-8.
Okay.
I'm not a fan. I don't like it, but you know what? I'm going to put on my brave face, and I jam it. And, of course, the kid wakes up with an ace-10. and his 10 holds up, and I was like, really? So I ended up going out in 15th place.
Well, that's pretty good with a field of 150 to 170 people. And that was only after about 5 hours, right?
Yes.
Wow, that's really good. Well, listen, you had fun, right? You had fun. You played for a few hours, relatively cheap. You made money. It was a good day for you,
Yeah. It's kind of ironic, I do try to look on the positive side of it. Absolutely. Would I have liked to have done better? Absolutely. Would I have loved the opportunity to take some of these people to school? You're damn right. I would have loved to have done that.
What I always come away with, especially after I cash or if I min cash or whatever, I always walk away, and ask myself, would I have played it any differently? Had my strategy been wider during the mid levels? I mean, should I have been tighter during the higher levels? Should I have called with, pocket nines when I was almost sure that the guy had ace king. I'm a 50-50, probability here. But, I mean, should I have called? Yeah, I mean, those are the types of questions I ask myself. What were you asking yourself, I mean, to better the next time?
One of the things that I really try to do, because I constantly review tournaments after I've played them. I think what I would have done is with some of the later tournament speculative hands that I would have played, I think what I would have done, I would have probably played fewer of them, but then the ones that I did play, I would have actually played them harder, and rather than limp in, I would just go ahead and come out and bet, make a raise. Because now at this point, I am actually having to make people really decide whether or not they want to play their ace-10, their ace-9, or maybe their small or medium pair. So there's a possibility that I might have been able to pick up a pot without having to see a flop. So that's one thing that I need, I want to consider looking at a little bit more closely. But I'm also having to review the circumstances in which I played those hands. The other thing I also want to do is I want to hone in more on my instincts. And an example for that is later on in the tournament, I ended up picking up a pair of threes, but I'm at a very aggressive table. I had a very strong feeling about that hand, and I decided not to play it. Had I played it, I would have flopped the set, and I would have taken down a big pot. But do I raise pre-flop with those threes with the chance of possibly getting re-raised by a pair of queens? Or do I just smooth call and call the queens? These are the things that, I have to kind of review. Go, okay, maybe this would have been the best way to do this, and go from there. So constantly I'm evaluating not just what I had and how I played it, but I'm also having to constantly evaluate how I would play a particular hand against a certain opponent.
Yeah. Well, next week I'm going to be talking about your big win over at the Bike Club last about a month and a half ago. That was an $80,000 tournament, correct?
Yes. The bike had that down as a $75K guarantee, and I believe the final prize pool was at least 85, almost 90.
Okay, and obviously you've got a different crowd. You got more of a, I would consider a more professional crowd than you would at your local casinos, which are basically regs that come in. But you've got a different crowd. You got a different strategy. Is a longer wait time in between plays. Your patience card is really high on the board. You've got a whole different mindset coming in. And I want to talk about that next week because that's going to be important, because that was a big win. That was one of the biggest tournaments in Southern California last year, and you ended up cashing that one. So I want to know, and I'm sure the listeners want to know, how you did it and how that differentiated between the smaller stakes tournament like you do yesterday and some of the bigger ones that a lot of people just don't have a chance to play or even cash, but you did both. So I think that's exciting. I want to, first of all, congratulate you for your cash yesterday, and I'm going to be seeing you, I think, next week or something like that. Yeah, I think next week I'm going down there, and I'm going to play a couple tournaments, so it should be interesting.
I look forward to it. So. Absolutely.
I look forward to seeing you. I just don't want to see you at my table.
Yeah, well, I know a person who knows a person, so I think we can fix that part.
Okay. All right, Terry, again, I want to thank you for your time, and I'm sure if any listeners are out there, they want to put a comment in there, I'm sure you'll see those comments after it gets published, but we'll go ahead and answer those. And if you want to stake any of Terry's games in the future, or if you want a piece of his action, it's very easy to do. All you got to do is go to stakemygame.com, and Terry's offering a free $5 voucher stake so that you could, put your toes in the water and see if this is something that excites you. It's the only website in the world that combines social media and professional tournament players. And you get to text with them during the play. Terry uploads live streams on Facebook and Instagram and texting and things like that. So you actually have an opportunity to play with Terry during the tournament, and you can do that for free. So this is something that you might want to consider. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, you can email me at info@stakemygame.com or visit my website at stakemygame.com. Terry, again, thank you very much for your time. And
absolutely,
I'm sure we're going to talk again, and it's always going to be after you win. I don't interview losers. There's just no strategy in it.
There might not be any strategy in there, but I tell you what, there are probably some lessons to be learned.
Oh, there's lessons, yeah, and hard lessons. But all right, man, I will talk to you later, my friend.
Absolutely. Thank you, and have a good day.
All right, bye.